Welcome everyone to the Winning in the Shadows YouTube channel. I'm Andy, that's Jim. We're going to be breaking down the last UFC event of the year, UFC Tampa, Buckley, and Colby, Covington. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do that. Trying to build this channel up organically, so any subscribers that we get is greatly appreciated. As always, hit the like button. I don't have a code word for. I just want to hear people's comments. Leave us a comment. Tell us what your best bet is in this on this card. I love this card, Jim.
I do too.
I think this is really, really bettable. So I'm very excited. I think there are live lines galore, and I will be live on this channel for the event watching. There's going to be a lot of live lines. There's going to be a lot of live bets that I think I like. So looking forward to that. We'll be live here on Saturday from start to finish for the last UFC event of the year. So if you have not joined us, just hit the subscribe button and you will be notified when we go live. Welcome, everyone. Let's break down UFC Tampa, Covington, and Buckley. Let's get right into it, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, tell us your best bet. And we're going to start with one of our old friends, and she's not old, but Josephine Knudsen. Been a while. I'd kind of forgotten about Josephine. She's been very good to us. She fights Vera Rodriguez. We were on her from the very beginning in Contender Series. We've cashed on her a few times. She's going to be the favorite here. Jim, what do you make of this fight?
In the same breath, we've been against Piera Rodriguez since her fight on the Contender Series. So interesting here. You guys could probably guess where we're going here. We're going Knudsen. I don't know. I don't know. There is a worry that we've come up with. I like Knudsen. However, we have seen her taken down. And to me, that's the only path to victory is a decision by Piera Rodriguez where she just holds her down and banks the control time. And then we get one of those real greasy split decisions where you have the one judge that likes wrestling that decides to actually go for Piera in this. If this gets to the third and it's on the feet, I think Knudsen has a really good shot at getting Piera out of here. I know it's a women's fight. We really don't like fights to end inside a lot of times. There is a shot that could happen. So the total has me a little scared off. I am still going to land on Knudsen. I think that she's going to do enough. And if we've learned anything from this year, it's that the striking and the damage should be on Piera Rodriguez. So I think Knudsen's going to be able to edge out the decision. But this went from a high confidence pick to looking into it to having some concerns.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rodriguez pulls this out. I love Knudsen. I think this is a bad matchup for her. Pilastri took her down, and took her down and did damage on her. So I worry horribly about that. On the feet, this is a no contest. Knudsen's volume, Knudsen's accuracy, just her overall activity. She's going to be able to walk Rodriguez down. But we watched Piera Rodriguez take Carnelossi down, and then the headbutts were pretty bad. I had forgotten how bad they looked. But the fact is she got it there. And when I say Pilastri took Knudsen down, I don't mean she had to work hard for it. I mean she shot in and got it down. It's a big worry because Knudsen just couldn't do much off of her back. That was the other thing. She couldn't work to get up. And it's kind of one of those where if there's 3 minutes left in the round and Knudsen gets taken down, she's probably staying there for, a majority of the round, if not the rest of it. So this is not going to make my card betting on Knudsen, even though we've had a really good read on her. And maybe this is us having a good read on her, where maybe this is the matchup. But live line opportunity on this one for sure. If we see Knudsen's just, dog walking Rodriguez on the feet and Rodriguez can't get her down, yeah, it's Knudsen all day. That first round, man, if there's a shot and a takedown and Knudsen can't get up from it, the spell's doom. So it's going to be a stay away pre-fight betting wise, but I will be paying attention to live line. So I think we're both a little worried about the big favorite in that one. Let's take a look at Davey Grant and Ramon Taveras. Ramon Taveras, we followed from Contender Series. He's had quite the journey here. Where do you land on this one? Davey Grant, the veteran, against Ramon Taveras.
Tavares is number one on my hit list of guys to fade. It's coming. Unfortunately, I don't think it's now. The age of Davy Grant and the amount of damage that he's absorbed, I think, is a real problem. This is another live bet. Like, the thing with Davy Grant is he's so wild and he's so open. And I don't see him changing anything at this point in his career. He's not going to come out and have a calculated striking display. And if we see that Tavares is throwing those real nice, clean, straight shots, I think you jump all over Tavares because straight shots beat round shots every time. Every single time. Shortest distance between two spots is a straight line.
What?
So I think he's going to beat him to the punch. I do. There's going to be a time to fade Tavares. I just really don't think this is the time. Not a real fan of his work. I think that he's very open to being clipped. I just don't know if the winging shots of Davy Grant at his ripe old age. I think he's 36. He's up there.
38.
38, even worse. Okay. So at that ripe old age of 38, I don't see it.
I so want to take Davy Grant here. I'm with you. Tavares has so many holes in his game. Yeah, his striking is good, but I mean, all right. So he's winning. Let's just go through and look at some of these matches here, Jim. All right, so he beats Charles Bennett, who's 30-41, nice win. James Dunn, who's 5-5, nice win. He gets beat by City. Apparently has pictures of Dana White because Dana White just. Oh, this is awful. What a horrible stoppage, even though he was laying down on the mat and got cold cocked. I've seen 10 worse stoppages this year. So Dana gives him another chance. Cratavius Ramius decides to stand in the middle of the ring and throw wild punches. And then Tavares gets a rematch against City because Dana's like, the injustice. We need to right this wrong. And what happens? It goes to a split. I'm out on Tavares. I will take you know what? I'm talking myself into this. So look who Davy Grant has lost to. Undefeated Daniel Marcos in a split, which Davy Grant gave Daniel Marcos a tough fight. He put damage on him, and he was there in round 3. Adrian Yanez, who we'll get to later, a split. And Marlon Vera, that's his losses. And now I like Davy Grant in this one. I thought he looked good against Daniel Marcos, and I'm very high on Daniel Marcos. And yes, I just said I'm very high on a guy that's undefeated. You're welcome, everybody. Tune in if you want any more expert analysis. I thought in a loss, Davy Grant looked really, really good. And Tavares, the other thing, Davy Grant's got submissions. Tavares, nothing. So I think this could be a veteran crazy performance where Grant's, I don't know, ducks underneath the punch and grabs around the waist, gets his back, gets him on the ground, or hits Tavares a couple times when Tavares isn't ready for it because it's a little bit wild. I think this is messy. The lines kind of suggest that this should be a lot closer. I think most people are going to be like, Tavares, the striker, the dynamic striker. I just don't see it. And yeah, you and I have said this guy's a fade. It's absolutely a fade when you get the right spot. Maybe this is the right spot. Maybe it's the wrong spot, but I will ever so slightly side with Davy Grant on this one.
What's your opinion on the total? Goes the distance, ends inside?
No opinion. I nothing would surprise me. Close split decision wouldn't surprise me. Grant by submission wouldn't surprise me. Even Tavares by knockout. But I mean, Grant, man, he's tough.
Yep.
I mean, he and Daniel Marcos went toe to toe, man. They were both beat up. So I don't know if Daniel Marcos couldn't get him out of there. I don't know if Tavares can. So I'm guessing that's a very unpopular position that I hold there. I'm guessing there's going to be more than one comment about like you're crazy. It's Tavares all day. I don't know.
Lines are even for a reason.
I know, but I just get the feeling Tavares is a guy that everyone wants to be on. I don't see it. So. All right, moving on to our girl, Miranda Maverick. That is Miranda Maverick right behind me.
She is.
There she is. Going up against Jamie Lynn Horth. I know how I think this fight is going to go. How do you think it's going to go?
So I did a little deep dive on Miranda after our talk. And I'll tell you what, Miranda is in shape. I mean, she's always in shape. We've never had a fight where you're like, oh, Miranda, she really didn't put the work in.
It's true. Great point.
Never said that, right? But she is in shape. So she has been trying to get ranked opponents, and nobody wants to fight her. Nobody wants to sign on the dotted line. The division itself is a little wonky right now. At the top, you have top contenders that are injured, that are out. So she really had no choice but to accept the fight. And I believe she had an opponent that pulled out, and Jamie Lynn Horth stepped in. On top of that, she actually called Jamie and thanked her for taking the fight because she's been on the sideline for how long now? A long time for a contender. She wants to be active, but we've seen this throughout Miranda's career. There's not a lot of people willing to jump in and fight her. She's even been calling for the Macy Barber rematch. That's not happening. Macy's got there's no sense in taking that risk when she's this close to a title opportunity. I believe that we're going to see the best Miranda Maverick that we've seen in this fight. And that's saying something because this girl is good. There's always going to be an issue with Miranda's size. I think she's one of those fighters that, like, do you just throw it out at this point? Like, she's smaller. She's not fighting girls that are smaller than her in training. She actually said she's been having a hard time with training partners because everybody's fought already and they're taking time off. So she's been sparring with the men. She's been grappling with the men.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Not one bit, right?
Not one bit, yeah.
Like, Miranda's the type of person where she's going to get her work in no matter who's in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
If she has to pull somebody in off the street, she's going to do it. And Jamie Lynn Horth at her advanced fight age, could we say? Like, she's not a dinosaur by any means, but like
34 years old and 7-1 and
Invicta fights, most of them. Like, if you go back and look at her Invicta fights till now, it seems like, I know it's only 8 fights, but is it more
BFL and
BFL? Yeah,
BFL.
LFA, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think it's Miranda, man. I think this could look like a landslide.
I'm all over Miranda Maverick in this one. I think her size and Jamie Lynn Horth's size is actually going to hurt Horth. Miranda's going to be able to shoot down, and she's just going to have the lower center of gravity. She's going to be stronger, and I think Horth goes down pretty easy. I mean, this is Jamie Lynn Horth that went to split against Veronica Hardy, who she's way bigger than, and then Ivana Petrovich in a split where she looked terrible in the first round. Now, shout out to Jamie Lynn Horth because Petrovich isn't very good, and we got some nice live bets, but I just don't see it from Jamie Lynn Horth. We picked her over Haley Cohen because Haley Cohen's a massive fade, but I think this is just going to be Miranda gets her on the ground, locks in a body triangle, locks in control, and just works the ground like she can. I mean, let's look at Miranda's losses here. Macy Barber, in what's regarded as one of the worst decisions of all time. Yeah. Yeah. Aaron Blanchfield goes the distance. And then Jasmine, which she got poked in the eye early in the fight and was seeing double.
Nobody's talking about that, analyzing this fight.
Yeah. You go back
and she had a problem with the size, and she got poked in the eye and could not see.
Yeah. And once you hear that and you go back and you watch the fight, you're like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world. Mm-hmm. She was just trying to get through the fight. I mean, she's rolled through everybody. So this is a pretty confident play. For me on Miranda. I know she's the big favorite, but I would not be hesitant to lay the wood on Miranda. So Miles Johns and Felipe Lima, interested in your thoughts on this one. How do you see this one going down?
This is a tough one for me. I see all the love on Lima. Look, I know he's a pretty hot prospect. I get it. But boy, Miles Johns has ruined my night more times than not.
Truth.
I don't think I've ever had a Miles Johns fight and been happy with how it went. Whether I'm on him or off him or betting against him or time props.
Or the fight gets voided after the fact because he's tested positive.
Just a mess. It's always such a mess with him. So look, honestly, if I'm betting it, and maybe you should go against this, I'm taking the plus 200 on Miles Johns. I just am. The guy's been in there. And I know he hasn't been in there with the best opponents, but he's been in there with UFC talent for a long, long time, dating back to 2021 and beyond. I mean, it's a lot of experience at this level, and Lima doesn't have that. So is Johns an over the hill, been here, done that fighter? No. He's got plenty of tread left on the tires. So I would lean on the experience in this spot. I think this different weight class is going to be really interesting that it's up because Miles John's big problem is tiring out. Let's face facts here. He packs a lot of muscle and he can only reserve his energy for these quick explosions here or there, and he's got to gear it back. Does he have the ability now to step on the gas pedal for all 3 rounds? If that's the case, I think it's Miles Johns by decision at plus 200. I mean, that's just Miles Johns at plus 200.
Yeah, I struggle with this one too. I think the odds are crazy. Now, I think Lima's going to be better on the feet. I think he's going to be quicker, and he is absolutely, if he uses his speed and he can get out of the way of Miles Johns, like clinch and wrestle, it's going to be a long night for Miles Johns because Miles Johns is going to get tired. If he's shooting takedowns and wrestling and it's not working, Lima will tune him up on the feet. But if Miles Johns can get a hold of Lima and slow him down and get on top of him, Lima's last win against Naimov, this is a good, solid win. Mm-hmm. But round 1, man, Naimov got on top and kept him down there. He won by rear naked choke, but they were wrestling and Naimov, like, they were sweaty and he slipped off of him and like Lima just jumped on his neck. It was a really nice submission, but it wasn't like he worked an awesome takedown or a great wrestling moment, or anything like that. This is another live bet. This is a classic live bet for me. If Miles Johns is getting the wrestling, I think you got to take a look at Miles Johns. Here's what I hope. That Miles Johns has to work really hard in round 1, but he wins it, and you get a great price on Lima because Lima's not getting tired. If there's going to be a fighter that gets tired, it's going to be Miles Johns. So no opinion before fight, but this one I have circled as a big-time live bet opportunity. Fingers crossed that Miles Johns wins round 1, but has to exert a lot of energy because Felipe Lima will pour it on in rounds 2 and 3. So should be a good fight, though. And I'm with you on Miles Johns. Like we were talking about, like what fighters – are there fight circuses? Miles Johns, betting on a Miles Johns fight has just been an absolute circus the last few times.
I hate it.
I know. So real quick, guys, we do have a 5% Cross Sport Parlay that is up and a 3% UFC Best Bet that is up. These are our big plays this week. The Cross Sport Parlay in particular. This is one that like – I wish we could make it more, but 5% is about the max. This one we just absolutely love. If you have not gotten that, go to Wager Talk, grab that one. We've got our 3% UFC Best Bet that is up. Easy cash on our 5% UFC play, right, Jim? Easy cash.
Easy piece of cake.
Piece of cake last
Shout out Adelaide Bird. Thank you, girl.
No, it's the last UFC event of the year. We've had a fantastic UFC run since July. I think we're hitting like 65% of our MMA plays. So we're really looking forward to closing it out. Hope you guys join us. We can help you build these bankrolls, guys. These Cross Sport Parlays, we're number 1 over in parlays. I know the stigma around parlays, but the fact is we have turned a profit every single year. Doing these parlays, and the Cross Sport Parlays is just our bread and butter. So looking forward to cashing that. We cashed our last 2 5% Cross Sport Parlays. So looking forward to that. Join us, wt.buzz/AL. And as always, these are bets that we bet with our own money, man. Like we talk the talk and we walk the walk. When you get our official plays at Wager Talk, these are all bets that we make our own, bets with our own money. And we're number 1 the last 2 years, up 190 units. Very proud of that. All right, let's move on to another guy who's kind of a circus to watch when we bet on him is Sean Woodson. What great matchmaking. Sean Woodson and Fernando Padilla. This is a great, great fight for me. I'm assuming that you're like me, where is Sean Woodson kind of like Randy Brown, where you're like, could you just give me a little more? And I'm saying this about a guy that's 12-1.
Yep.
But it just feels like his fight, like split decision against Charles Jourdain. Really, you couldn't finish Dennis Luca. You couldn't get him out there. You went to the split with Luis Saldana. I don't know. His length is such a problem for everybody. Nobody has been able to really figure it out. I think Padilla can, because Padilla's got a similar body type. It's like just kind of a little bit of squished version of Sean Woodson, but he's got the long legs. what I like about Padilla is he will push forward. That's what everyone has trouble with Sean Woodson. They can't get inside. They stand on the outside, and Woodson wins these stupid close rounds. I think Padilla is going to do whatever it takes to try and get inside. I think he makes life rough for Woodson. I would lean Padilla to pull the upset here. What do you think?
I'm going to quote The Rock on this fight. Finally, we get a chance to bet against Sean Woodson. This is the moment, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely love Padilla in this spot. Look, the unanimous decision loss to Kyle Nelson, I still remain as one of the worst decisions of the year.
I went back. I've watched that fight twice, and I still can't figure it out.
So we're talking about a guy that could be on a 5-fight win streak here if it isn't for an atrocious judge's decision. Okay? Secondly, you hit the nail on the head. Woodson's advantage in the size and the length, it's not going to be in this fight. It's not happening this time. You don't get those physical gifts that has allowed you to squeak by in these close split decisions and this and that.
Against Charles Jourdain,
right? A man who we've seen become very fragile later on in his career. Sean Woodson's going to get hit in this fight. And if you're asking me who's got a better chin, it's Padilla. It's not even close. It's not a debate. Sean Woodson gets wobbled when he gets hit clean. He's got tall man's defense. When he backs up, his chin goes up in the air, and he relies on shoulder rolling and moving his body, his giant shoulders, in front of his chin. And with a guy with this size, he's not going to be able to pull the same thing he did against Dennis Bazookia. Okay? I think Padilla is a real problem in this division. I love this guy's skill set. I have from Jump Street. I've been on him from Jump Street. I think he's getting the knockout of Sean Woodson. And finally, we're going to see somebody figure out how to deal with this range. The other thing is, he's got a huge advantage on the ground. Sean Woodson's ground game is horrible. It's just people can't take him down because his waist is at their eyeballs. So I just see all the advantages in the Padilla side in this spot. Love Padilla. I think he's safe to play, safe to parlay. One of my more favorite bets on this card. I have a small personal play on him. So again, money where our mouth is. I just love the chance to fade Sean Woodson against somebody who's not 5'6".
Yeah, you're getting plus money on Padilla. So I'm with you on that one. Up next, Drakkar Klose and Joel Alvarez. My question to you here, Jim, is A, did Drakkar Klose accept this fight, or did somebody accept it on his behalf that he didn't know about? B,
Bill's got to get paid, Andy. Bill's got to get paid.
B, what is Drakkar Klose's path to victory here? Because I don't see it. This is, to me, Joel Alvarez in a violent match. I got to be honest. His last fight against Brenner was awesome. Mm-hmm. It was a slugfest. I think Brenner's a favorite over Drakkar Klose. I almost feel like this is a little bit of a step down.
Yeah.
For Alvarez. I don't understand the matchmaking on this fight. Unless I'm missing something. Maybe it's that Drakkar Klose is 15-2. But I don't know. And for those of you who don't know, Drakkar Klose had this it's got to be one of the strangest injuries in all of MMA. I believe it was against Jeremy Stevens at the face. Yeah, where he got pushed and got wet, like whiplash.
I said whiplash. It was a concussion. Neck injury and a concussion.
It was
and all kinds
bad.
of stuff.
So he takes a bunch of time off. He comes back, fights Brendan Jang's punching bag, whatever. Mm-hmm. Knocks him out like he should. Look very rusty, understandable. Gets a win against Rafa Garcia. Has one of the more strange wins against Joe Selecki, where he picks up Selecki, slams him down, knocks him out. And then he beats Joaquin Silva, where Joaquin Silva was on his back foot the whole time, wouldn't push forward. And yet Drakkar Klose couldn't do much. Even with the advantage of walking forward and Joaquin Silva not doing much, Drakkar Klose just not that impressive. And now you're going to go up against Joel Alvarez, who is going to have no problem walking down Klose. If Klose wants to try and walk down Alvarez will welcome that, because that means he can pull guard, he can get him on the ground, or he can just blast him with elbows and knees. I don't see it for Drakkar Klose. This fight, I can't believe they accepted this fight, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Like I said, sometimes Bill's got to get paid. Either that or it's like, look, you got one more fight left. This is the fight we're giving you. Take it or leave it. We'll keep you on the shelf.
That could be.
You know,
Yeah.
you kind of have no choice in this spot. Joel Alvarez showed me absolutely everything that I needed to see. Again, another guy been on from Jump Street.
Yep.
The physical tools in this division are amazing. Now he's had some problems. He's missed weight before, bit of a size bully. You know, he's had a little bit of drama, I guess you would say. There was the what was the illegal strike against Takezi? Was it a headbutt, or I believe it was, or ref missed it? He ends up getting the finish. Look, what are you supposed to do? Stop? Ref doesn't stop it. Keep fighting. Sorry, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
I don't see. Here's what I was getting at. Going to the third against Brenner was what I needed to see.
I agree. 100%.
Because he's a finishing machine. Show me that you have something in the third. And boy, did he have something in the third.
He had about 30 knees.
I loved the patience. We know that he can be just a marauder, but he showed such great patience in that Brenner fight, and range control and cage control and the combinations he was putting together. I mean, he hit Brenner in every spot in his body, from head to toe, every single spot of his body. Had him so off balance. Close is so stiff in his striking. He is going to be just a sitting duck for the range striking of Alvarez. And if he decides to clinch up and he's losing, we just saw this with the long arms of Chase Hooper getting submissions. He's got this build where he can lock up submissions that other people can't do. It's just a horrible matchup. I don't know who's a good matchup for this guy other than Armin Sarukian.
It's wrestlers,
right?
Listen, it's Ismagulov and Sarukian, guys that can do work on the ground or can get him on the ground and control. But that ain't Drakkar close.
No.
That is not Drakkar close.
This is Alvarez. I would assume it's Alvarez by finish in this spot. It's how he fights, and if he gets a nice measured game plan, he's going to have 15 minutes to do it.
Agreed. Here's a bizarre one. Michael Johnson. What creative mind picked this fight? It's an Azaitar fight, so don't blink. They're all really, really quick. He has gotten absolutely obliterated in his last two fights. I mean, absolutely obliterated. Before that, he finished Worthy, who was not worthy, and I don't even remember this guy. I truly do not remember him. Why? Because he hasn't fought since then. Mm-hmm. Your theory on why Azaitar is still in the UFC is the foreign money and just that this guy's like just a spark show. Now, is Michael Johnson the guy that's going to stand there and bang with him? I don't know, man. I think this is a really interesting fight. My sneaking suspicion is I almost want to take the over on an Azaitar fight because I don't think Michael Johnson's going to oblige him. I don't think Michael Johnson's going to stand there and bang with them. I don't know. I have not bet it, but I would hope to get a good number on an over, and I would roll the dice. I've been pretty good at these, by the way. I've been pretty good at these. I don't know. Who do you think wins this one?
Let me ask you a question. What happens when you think you know what Michael Johnson's going to do?
I mean, the guy is 22-19, and
he does the exact opposite of what he's supposed to do.
It's a good point. It's a great point. Yes.
Is he going to stand and bang with him? Yes. Yes, the answer is yes. Because this guy just makes error after error after error. Go back and watch his fight against Darius Flowers. You want to talk about one of the worst fights? The fact that Michael Johnson could not finish Darius Flowers is ridiculous.
Yeah, Darius Flowers should have been cut in between rounds 2 and 3.
Oh, you were not kidding. You were not kidding.
It was bad.
That fight was so bad. I remember screaming at the TV, like, just say, get these guys out of the UFC at this point. Like, we're paying to watch these guys fight. Azaitar is a fade, and I don't even think it's a theory on why he's here anymore. I think it's pretty much confirmed. He's here for a favor to the Saudis. It's that simple. I get it. It's okay. I'm not mad about it. But We have to understand what he is. So, in my opinion, with this fight, Michael Johnson is going to oblige. Remember, we had Do Me a Favor last week?
Yeah.
Here's the other favor. Michael's going to come out there when he should wrestle and should stay on the outside, and he's going to exchange with Azaitar. And one of these two guys is going to get put out.
Okay, so you're going with the sparks fly.
I don't see a world where Azaitar goes to decision. As bad as Michael Johnson is, I think both of these guys are going to leave such massive holes that you could drive a dump truck through that we're going to have plenty of shots that land. So opposing view as far as the total, I just think there's a lot of bad MMA in this fight. No offense, respect to Michael Johnson for what he did in his career and his Azaitar, but at this level, there's too many holes.
He's almost five. He's 22-19. He's almost 500. I mean, 22-19. That could be the score on Thursday Night Football.
Correct.
So,
I love violence in this fight. I think this is a fight that doesn't go to distance.
It wouldn't surprise me if Azaitar comes flying out, balls the wall, and all of a sudden Johnson goes for a takedown. And now you're like, oh, God. Oh my
but even
God.
at that, if Johnson goes for a takedown and gets this guy on the ground in round 2 and round 3, is he going to offer any kind of resistance?
No, it just this smells like circus. It just smells like a bizarro fight. So, all right.
Speaking of bizarro fights,
yeah, here we go. Navajo Sterling versus Tokkos. All right, I'm going to read you this verbatim. So when Jim and I do watch Contender Series, we make notes on every fighter that gets a contract. Mm-hmm. This is our word for word reaction for our notes from when Navajo Sterling fought. Fade machine, slow striking, no output, no combinations, did not handle pressure well, no setup on shots, eyes closed on strikes, low volume, bad footwork. And yet, somehow they found somebody that he's way better than.
Yep.
This guy, Tokkos, is really something. And by something, I mean nothing. By the way, if you want to see one of the most gruesome arm injuries you have ever seen in your entire life, go watch his fight against Byron Dennis. Mm-hmm. Yikes. That one, I watched it once and that's great. I'll pass. He just gets blown through by Marcy. And if we remember that fight, this guy's awful. There's no value in this because Sterling's such a big favorite. But I'm stunned that they found somebody that is way worse than Navajo Sterling. It's Navajo Sterling. He has got so much work to do though, man. Yes. The guy is 5-0. And there ain't any amateur fights. Like this guy is as raw as it gets. They're going to have, they're going to have to bring him along very, very slow. And they're going to keep having to find the Tokkoses of the world. It's Navajo Sterling, but there's no way I'm betting a penny on this fight. What do you think?
I was lined up with the Binks truck, ready to dump it against Navajo Sterling. And this is why you do your research. Can you click on Tokkos for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's one thing that jumped off of this record that got me thinking that this is probably one of the bigger setup fights of the year. How did he get to the UFC?
So he was on road to UFC getting knocked out. You get floored in the first round, and then he goes to Shudo Brazil.
So why did he bring a guy in, right, who got knocked out on road to the UFC?
Why is he on road to UFC?
Exactly. So how's he even there? So then they needed an opponent for Omar Sy, right? In his hometown. It was in Paris, right? Guess what? This guy is a tool for the UFC to use.
He's a jobber.
He's a jobber.
Wrestling.
He is the Brooklyn Brawler of
that's good
of MMA right now. He's being brought in so that Sterling can get a highlight finish. The lack of grappling from Tokkos in that C fight was alarming.
It was bad.
It wouldn't take us like 7 seconds in that fight to go, oh, we missed it. We missed it. We missed a huge chance. He was worse than I thought he was going to be. And they're bringing him in to lose to Sterling 100%. This is another one. I think you play fight doesn't go the distance. I know I want to fade Sterling, but I don't have any confidence whatsoever that Tokkos can go 15 minutes against anybody on the UFC roster. Anybody.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's Navajo Sterling, but it's gross. Absolutely.
Yeah, There's going to be a time to fade this guy.
Oh, you just got to be
now.
patient. You just got to be patient with some of these contender series guys that are being brought in too fast. Their time will come, and we will be there. You mentioned Jobber. I have got one of the ultimate jobbers coming up to show you. I bet nobody even knows it. I found an all-timer. So we'll go over that here in a few fights. Daniel Marcus and Adrian Yanez. I already know we're on opposite sides on this one.
Yes, we are.
Go ahead. You go first.
Daniel Marcos, 16-0. Is he going to retire undefeated? No.
Nope.
He's not. Adrian Yanez, 17-5. Is he going to become a 500 fighter? He could. Most certainly could. With his style and the danger that he puts himself in, he most certainly could drop a lot of fights in a row. I think that knockout really changed the way he fought. I was actually pretty impressed with his comeback fight. All right. After the knee injury, again, the Jonathan Martinez fight, if nobody wants to talk about it, I will. He came into that fight with a torn knee ligament. So now he's fighting against a leg kicker with a torn knee ligament. Information that I would have liked before the fight, considering I had a bet on him. But I guess we don't have to disclose injuries. Comes back and does what he's supposed to do against Vinicius Salvador. So I think we're going to see a run here from him. I do. I think he's made some changes. I think we're going to see him mature a little bit more. He was way too reckless and way too confident. And I think the best thing that could have happened to him, not that you want to get knocked out, but to get caught by Rob Font. So I don't see the devastating power from Marcos that is going to put him out. So I just think that Yanez's striking is cleaner. I think it's cleaner. The combinations are better. I haven't really liked how Marcos reacts to certain shots. I think we're going to see cleaner punches in the pocket from Yanez. So if this fight does get close, I would trust Yanez to land first over Marcos. So I'm on Yanez in this spot. I think he takes either a decision or a KO in this spot. I would lean more towards decision because Marcos has proven to be tough.
Yeah, I like Daniel Marcos. I don't think it's his time to lose. I loved that fight against Davey Grant. We get the no contest, whatever. Nice win against John Castaneda. I just don't think that Yanez has the tools, the overall tools, to get it done. I think he's just a little bit, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but I just don't see the diversification of his weapons. I don't see the depth of his weapons, of his attacks. And I mean, okay, like, he beats Tony Kelly, but Tony Kelly, we haven't seen Tony Kelly since that fight. So, how good is that win? The split against Davey Grant, that's a good win, but he steps up in competition. He loses to Rob Font, loses to Jonathan Martin. Vinicius Salvador sucks. I'm not gonna write home about beating Vinicius Salvador. I mean, Salvador is the guy that does the stick his chin out, puts his hand down at his side. I don't know. I've been waiting to fade Daniel Marcos because, like we say, these guys are not going to finish they're just not going to finish their career undefeated. I just don't think this is the guy. I just like the progression that I've seen. I like his strikes. He's got a granite chin. He's so hard to wobble. And if Yanez doesn't get that one shot knockout, I just think it's Marcos kind of by death by 1,000 paper cuts, just a lot of, strikes. And now Marcos, he has been low volume in the past. I think he'd be a little bit better served if he actually really concentrates on, you don't have to throw the power punch every single time. You don't have to set up every single punch, even throwing stuff that doesn't land keeps your opponent off guard a little bit. So I think he would be a little bit better served, but who am I to coach him? Dude's 16-0. So what do I, what do I know? But yeah, I've got Marcos by decision in this one. So we'll go head to head.
I like it. We both land on the over.
100%. I don't see Yanez knocking out a guy like Marcos. And I don't, Marcos is not the guy that lands the huge one or ground and pound or something. He's the one that just does damage early, slows the guy down, and just kind of continues, beating on him. So, all right, Dustin Jacobe and Vitor Petrino. You heard it here first when we correctly predicted that Vitor Petrino was going to lose to Anthony Smith. And based on what we've seen from Anthony Smith, that that prediction is one of the wildest ones that we've made since doing this show. I think the loss was a good thing for him, and I bet people would be stunned if you told them that Dustin Jacobe was 1-4 in his last 5 fights.
Yep.
I'm not a big Dustin Jacobe fan as a fighter. That even surprised me. And his one win, questionable stoppage against Kennedy and Zachuku, who has been fighting the lower level guys. What do you think? Victor Petrino get back on track, or does Dustin Jacobe get back on track?
Petrino's record has everything that I want. Again, you hear me come back to this a lot. I need to know that you've paid your dues and that you've gone through all of the roller coaster in MMA. So what has he done? He's won by decision. He's won by submission. He's won by knockout. He's lost. The loss is important. The most important out of all of those when looking at a fighter, to me, is seeing that there's an L. You have those guys like Khabib that just retire undefeated. They're amazing. You have those guys that are 20-2. Okay, but that 2 is important. You learn more from your losses. I expect to see the best version of him that we've ever seen. You have to expect that after a loss if you're serious about it. So, look, Dustin Jacobe is past his prime. And what you're not going to see on that 19-9 record is all of the glory fights.
Yeah, the kickboxing.
All of the kickboxing fights.
It is a ton,
Look,
man.
You can just keep on scrolling, man. It's crazy.
This guy fought his first amateur in 2008. So it's a lot of wear and tear on that body, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. It's a lot of fights. So, look, Petrino, I think, has the power advantage. Jacoby's not knocking him out on the feet. If Petrino decides to wrestle, I think he can get it there. And I don't see anything from Jacobe. Like, again, are we going to see new tricks from Jacobe, or are we going to see improvements from Petrino? We're going to see him from Petrino. So I love Petrino in this spot. He's minus 310. I think he's 100% safe to parlay.
I hope he comes out with more volume, man, and a little bit more aggression in UFC. I mean, he was so tentative in that fight against Tyson Pedro. I mean, his check hook against Bukauskas was fine, but up until that point, you're like, come on, man. And then, the Anthony Smith, that we said it. There was a reason Anthony Smith took that fight. He knew there was holes in Petrino's game. He knew he wasn't going to get volumed up because that's not what Petrino does. And he knew Petrino was going to stick his neck in there where it didn't belong and got him out of there. I'm with you that it's Petrino. I've just never been a Dustin Jacobe guy. And
luckily.
Recently it's been a really good thing. So, that chin against his knockout against Reyes, that was just like, oh man, has all the wear and tear finally caught up to him. So, it'll be Petrino for this one. All right, Cop and Bruno Silva. I'll let you go first.
I'll Cop. When you come to a fork in the road in your career and you make the wrong turn, sometimes you just never go the right way you begin. This man had the world in front of him. Like on a silver platter, absolute silver platter. And then look at all these canceled fights and drama and weight misses and fights outside of the octagon and reschedulings and you name it, this guy has done it. He has an opportunity against Muhammad Makayev, who is not going to hurt you, is just going to try to hug you for 3 rounds, and he can't get the job done. Just can't do it. He's in line for a title shot if he gets that done because they were trying to book the fight with his title shot, and it just didn't happen. So this guy, to me, just can't make the right decisions outside of the cage. How can I trust him to make the good decisions inside of the cage? I just can't. Skill-wise, look, he's got all the skills in the world. He can wrestle. He can grapple. Okay? He can strike. Great striker. Super dynamic. Physically gifted. We've seen him get clipped. In his last fight, he got clipped. Even against Makayev, you get hit with a punch. What is Bruno Silva going to do? I don't trust him to be able to take Bruno Silva's power. Now, Bruno Silva's no world beater by any means. He was on his way to big trouble against Cody Durden
Yes,
and
he
found a way to put
was.
him out. But I don't know if he's going to be in that constant pressure wrestling state trouble against Kopp. And I will trust the power of him to clip a guy who I know is going to make 1 to 2 bad decisions in a fight. Who was our guy last weekend? We were saying how many bad decisions they're going to make.
Well, Bryce Mitchell, and he almost did it. And he did it. We told you he was going to make 2 horrific decisions, and he almost got his arm submitted.
Yep. So put Bryce right into that category. Put Cape right there with him. I think he's a guy that makes mistakes. So I'm going to take Bruno Silva.
I got Kopp all day. I got Kopp by steamroll. I'm out on Bruno Silva. This guy absorbed a lot of damage against Cody Durden. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, he did. He
You're right.
Welts on the side of his face, and based on what we saw from Cody Durden in his last fight, I don't think we would say Cody Durden's the most dynamic striker in the world. So let's just go through his wins here recently. So JP pays. Come on now.
I know. We love JP.
Yeah,
JP made us a lot of money.
He did.
We love JP.
He did. Victor Rodriguez, who hasn't fought since 2021. We talked about the Cody Durden fight, which on paper, if you're just looking at that, you go, oh, wow, knockout win. Go watch that fight. That was close. And now here's the guy. So he beats Tyson Nam. I would like to go through what Tyson Nam is up to these days. So he loses to Silva, loses to Maxim. So he goes to Front Street Fights. And I mentioned the jobber. Mm-hmm. Take a look at Eric Vo. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, yeah. All right, write that name down. We got to look and see where we can get Eric Vo some fights.
This is who Tyson Nam is fighting these days. Are you kidding me? This guy hasn't won a fight since 2017. They just keep putting him in these fights. And then my favorite, no contest. I have to find out what happened. I need to find out what happened. So that was kind of funny. Anyway, I think Bruno Silva just doesn't have the striking defense, and to be honest, I don't think he's got the power to get to Kopp. I think Kopp gets to him early and takes away that power that Silva has. And I mean, I know what you're saying with Kopp. It's always something. I mean, he has 3 fights since 2021 and 7 canceled fights. He's certainly not in the good graces of UFC. I mean, losing to Makayev, they gotta be so pissed at him. That's like, really?
Be livid.
Really, dude?
That's what I mean. They've teed him up 4 times. Look who they booking him against. Figueiredo, that's a title eliminator. Kaikar France, that's a title eliminator. Nicolau, they had to bring Kaya Sakura in from Japan to fight for the title in this division because this division sucks. Yeah. It's bad after the top 3.
I think Kopp on the feet is going to be too much. Now, could he turn this into a circus? Of course, but I don't think Silva's that guy. So I'll take Kopp in that one. Let's move on to Cub Swanson and Billy Q. This is a really interesting fight on paper. You got Cubs, the co-main. They're putting a 41-year-old putting a 41-year-old Cub Swanson against Billy Q, who was clearly hurt. Not only was he not 100% against the law, he wasn't 80%. It wasn't 70%. He looked so bad. But what do you always say, Jim? Sometimes you got bills to pay and you can't pull out of a fight. So you go out there and just take the ass whooping. Cub Swanson also, we legendarily lost money on him against Dawodu, where even Cub Swanson said he didn't win that fight. Mm-hmm. Does Cub Swanson still got something left in the tank, or is this finally going to be his retirement? And then you got Billy Q, who, if he looks anything like he did the last fight, he's going to get beat. But if he looks anything like 100% Billy Q, don't you think he rolls here? That's an interesting one. What are we doing?
This is going to be me talking Andy into betting Billy Q. Right, here's my argument. Okay, let's start with Cub. You just nailed it. Cub Swanson in a co-main event right before Christmas to end the year Why is he in the co-main event? Well, he's in the co-main event because this is probably Cub's last fight, whether it's
You would
announced or
think.
not. Before his fight against Feely, he was talking about how he loved just coaching and getting in touch with these younger fighters. So from the Cub side, we all know, I'm not breaking any news, that Cub Swanson isn't long for this sport. He has a lot of other things going on. He's got to start thinking about the second half of his career, the back nine, on how he's going to make money off of being a fighter. And it's going to be in coaching. It's going to be in running a gym. It's going to be giving back to younger fighters. We saw this with Robbie Lawler. He said it flat out. I'm retiring because I want to get in touch with the younger fighters. I want to help them like everyone else helped me. The win against Dawodu was not a win.
No.
It's pretty obvious. So we're looking at a 3-fight skid on a retiring fighter. It could be a 4-fight skid, but he got fed Darren Elkins.
How do you squeeze it? How do you go from Giga to Jonathan Martinez and, oh, by the way, here's a Darren Elkins fight?
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the win that he actually has here. So let's look at his wins. Daniel Pineda, I believe that was post-Sauce Pineda. That was his second time in after he got busted for
he doesn't
steroids.
look like this.
No.
Daniel
So,
Pineda
so
doesn't
he beats
look like
Pineda, who we know only has 2 rounds of danger. What was his other win? Guess who?
Well, Darren
Kron
Elkins.
Kron Gracie. Other than that, lost to Shane Burgos, lost to Moicano, lost to Frankie Edgar, lost to Brian Ortega, lost, till we get back to 2017 where he beats Artem Lobov.
Yeah, and then the legendary Duho Choi fight.
It's not looking so good when you really tally it up. Cub's an absolute legend, but he was a legend in the WEC. Not really in the UFC. I love Cub, huge fan, but he was a WEC guy. So I think we're done with Cub. Billy Q. Let's add up what was the problem going into the fight. His wife was 8 months pregnant going into the last fight. Started a new gym. Most certainly had an injury, but we can't find out what it was still to this day, which is driving me mad. But that was the big hubbub at the face-offs where he couldn't move his arm.
I'm pretty sure it was shoulder. I think based on what we saw from that fight,
it wasn't,
and from leading up, it was the shoulder.
Flat out said that he underestimated Yusuf Salal. He wanted to get in the cage and get going. And that was a big mistake to underestimate Yusuf, because look what Yusuf has done since he's been back.
Yeah, Yusuf's been good.
The man
really,
is
really
on a
good.
Tear, an absolute tear. So do we take anything away from that fight? Is it that, does a healthy Billy Q make that fight look way closer? I think 100% think so.
I honestly, I throw out the Zalal fight. That wasn't Billy
You have
Q.
to.
That was a JV version of Billy Q. It was hurt, injured. Like it's like in the NFL when, the quarterback comes out and, he's got a bad shoulder or a bad knee and he has like a bad game. And you're like, well, remember back in week 6 when he only went 12 of 28, it was like, yeah, he's limping around. I throw that one out against Zalal. I really do.
You have to. The knee against Barbosa was just, remember that one? It was a flash shot out of nowhere.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep.
Anybody goes down to that. So I think this is Billy Q. I think it's Billy Q all day. I'm going to keep going after Cub until he officially retires, and I don't want to miss the boat if this is the one. If you ask me when I want to go out, this is when I want to go out if I'm him. This is all set up. Read the tea leaves. I just got a feeling this is going to be the last time we see Cub, and good for him. Had a hell of a career.
I in defense of Cub, I will say this. He was there in round 3 against Feely.
That he was.
Feely wasn't pushing a great pace, and it's Andre Feely. So, those are always weird fights. But, he was there. And I will give him credit. He didn't win the Dawodu, but he was at least there in it. This isn't like the older guys, some of the other guys we've seen that are just corpses, in there that are getting finished. So he is there. If you do bet on Billy Q, make sure you have those live lines ready. If Billy Q isn't 100% or there's something off, that's the thing, because Cub Swanson is good enough, still at this age.
Yes.
An injured Billy Q, he will take out. He will absolutely go 3 rounds, and then you're nervous. But if Billy Q looks 100%, I think there's just going to be too much volume and activity on the feet that Cub Swanson will be able to keep up with. So. All right, last fight of the evening. Again, real quick, can't emphasize enough. 5% Cross Sport Parlay is up. 3% UFC Best Bet is up. We have already bet these. You guys should too. coming off a 5% win in the UFC last week, and the cross sport parlays are our bread and butter. Of all the things that we do, I almost think that's the one that like we hang our hats on. Like,
Oh yeah,
nobody does cross sport parlays like we do. I will confidently say that nobody does these and sees these spots the way we do. So when we first started doing them, people were like, "What?"
yeah. We had to
No.
literally explain what it meant.
Yeah, like, so you guys are parlaying a Formula One play with a UFC play, like, and an NFL play. But the cross sport parlays are where it's at, man. We do really, really well with them. So highly encourage everybody. Highly demand everybody join us on this 5% play this week. This one is going to hit. I feel very confident. All right, Colby Covington and Joaquin Buckley. To me, Jim, I think this comes down to, what do you think of Colby Covington? Do you think he's done, or do you still think he has something left in the tank? My personal opinion is I think he's done. And if he's done, then that means you're just fading him against most guys. His performance against Leon Edwards was so awful, and it was just like, oh my God, this is it. And when it falls off a cliff, or when it ends, it just falls off a cliff. The guy fights once a year, a lot of wear and tear, a lot of wars. And the fact is, this guy's beaten two guys since the Robbie Lawler fight. He beat Tyrone Woodley, who was at the end of Tyrone Woodley's career. I mean, he loses to Covington, gets Darce choked by Luque, and then he's fighting Jake Paul. Mm-hmm. And then he beats Jorge Masvidal, who had not one foot out the door. He had both feet and both hands out the door. And he couldn't even get Masvidal out of it. Those are his two wins. There's guys whose UFC careers were done. And now, I mean, this used to be Colby Covington. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to walk forward. I'm going to be the more athletic, more aggressive. Right? And now guess who he's fighting? A younger version of himself who's probably got more power, who is on a tear. I think this is an absolute nightmare matchup for Colby Covington. I don't see how he gets better after what he looked like against Leon Edwards. What's the improvement? Like you're telling me he's going to be better than that? I just think when it ends, it ends. And this is a Joaquin Buckley ass whooping, because if you want to poke holes in Joaquin Buckley, Stephen Thompson was able to, and like we said, Stephen Thompson made that fight tough. Stephen Thompson has incredible footwork on the balls of his feet, dancing around karate style, and Buckley still got him out of there in round 3. Let's just say Colby Covington didn't look that fast in the last one. So if Buckley's cardio is an issue, how is Colby Covington going to push a pace that gets him tired out? I just don't see it. I just don't see a path to victory for Colby in this one. For me, it's Buckley, and for me, it's not even close.
I got to learn some more. I got to find out some more info about this fight. Stephen Thompson was doing absolutely everything that he needed to do.
He really was.
The Buckley fight. He was fighting a perfectly game planned fight against Buckley. And he literally zigged when he should have zagged. And just walked into a right hand. He walked into a looping right hand. The thing with Buckley is, I want to make sure that Colby doesn't get in his head. I have a feeling Buckley can be had above the shoulders.
Oh, I like this take.
No, it's serious, and it's not a knock, but we saw Buckley in his early career. He's calling out fighters. He's at the PI. He's been thrown out of multiple gyms and had to find his way, and he was an immature young man. Now, I will give him credit with this. He has most certainly turned that around. You don't hear anybody saying anything, but Colby has this way.
The move in the weight class, it almost seems like it almost seems like a change in mentality.
Yeah.
He was fighting these guys that are just way bigger than him, so he's trying to flex up physically and mentally, and maybe he doesn't have to do that. I don't know, but that's a great point.
Yeah,
great point you make.
Also, I think being down a weight class has caused him to become a more disciplined person, not just fighter, but like person in your life. He seems to have everything together. He's on the rise. Like, yeah, of course. Like I had said to Andy earlier in the week, I always look at Buckley and there's something that just keeps me off betting him. And maybe I'm a sucker for not doing it, obviously, because he's rattled off 5 in a row. I did pick him against Fiallo, but that wasn't breaking news. The
Yeah.
Fiallo that is getting knocked out by everybody. I think he should have finished Morono. I thought that was a bad look. So there's always been something where I'm like, yeah, okay. But if Colby gets in his head, I think he could maybe find some kind of success. If he can't, and we see Buckley, I agree. I think Buckley will run away with this thing. That is the one piece that is keeping me off of betting Buckley. I need to see the press conference. I need to see the weigh-ins. I need to see the embedded. I need to see what kind of mentality Buckley is taking into this fight. Because if he beats him, he fights Ian Gary, and he is 100%, if he gets past Gary, next in line for a title shot. This is not the time to be Manal caping it, okay? We have to get this right here, Buckley.
Does Colby Covington still have that in him?
He'll be up there talking the same mess.
But I feel like
they're throwing jabs.
I feel like if he would have really been wanting to do the mind games, it would have started already.
But this is what I mean. We could very well see it not land.
That's what I mean.
I'm loving this, like waiting for this. Because if it seems forced and Buckley just shrugs it off, I think it's Buckley.
Colby's done. Colby's really done
got
for.
No leg to stand on. He's done. So physically, Buckley, Colby's beat to hell. He is. He's absolutely beat to hell. And when you're talking about gut issues, which are well documented, that's not something that you train, heal. Look at Brock Lesnar with the diverticulitis. Like when you have gut issues, that's something you deal with forever.
Mm-hmm.
The way you eat, the way you cut weight, all has to change. Everything has to change. The way you take damage. We saw him get beat up to the body against Leon Edwards. Don't tell me that wasn't a targeted attack. It's very well documented what's wrong with him. So, again, if you don't get on Buckley early, then you wait till the fight and you see Buckley throwing front kicks, game plan's working. He's got his head in the game.
Yeah, and UFC's got some interesting issues with Colby, because if he does look awful, now you're sitting there going, what in the world do we do with Colby Covington?
Yeah.
Because this guy was ranked very high, and now you're like, okay, he's beaten the two guys that were leaving UFC, and he's gotten his ass kicked about, to everyone else, and he's just quickly on the way down. So
to me, there's one more fight.
What?
You bring Masvidal back in, who's still under contract. I'm serious. And you book that fight. That's the one thing that you can do with Colby Covington.
Colby will be boxing Jake Paul.
Yes, he will.
He'll be boxing Jake Paul, and then he'll be boxing Masvidal or something ridiculous like that. So, all right, let's do the Parlay Buster and the Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda. What do you have for your Parlay Buster this week?
Oh, the parlay is tough this week.
This is a tough one. This is a real tough one.
I can't. I want to fade Navajo Sterling, but I can't with Tokkos. I don't know. Miles, he's a favorite. Lima.
I'll tell you right now. I'm going with Knutson.
Okay.
Because Knutson's a big enough piece where people look at it and go 8-0. If you followed her from Contender Series, or even if you followed us, you know how much we like her. I think this is a bad matchup for her. So I think Josephine Knutson, I think if you take her in parlays and Rodriguez gets a takedown in rounds 1 and 2, you are just absolutely terrified. And then the announcer, the ring announcer comes out and is just like, Judge 1 scores it. And you're like, oh, God. Oh, God. Split skis. So Knutson's going to be my parlay buster.
I'm going to take him because he's a favorite. He's not a steep favorite, so I don't know how parlayed he will be, but people always like to try to juice to get better odds. He's only minus 166, but I'll go Sean Woodson.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think the length of Padilla is going to be a real problem.
Okay.
Real problem.
All right. Let's do the woulda, coulda, shoulda. This is a bet where at the end of the night, we're like, man, why didn't we lay the absolute farm on that one? I think I know what mine is. What's yours going to be?
I'm sticking with my guns here. I'm going Billy Q against the retiring Cub.
Okay.
Under
the retirement theory
against the retiring fighter. This goes with old man theory, which has been our absolute best angle of the entire year. So I'll stick with that. I'll go Billy Q minus 155.
We got a few of them here. I'll go with Buckley over Covington. It's Covington doesn't fit the old man theory, but he does fit the oh god, this guy's falling off a cliff and can't beat anybody with a pulse type of theory. So it could be one of those where if like in the first half of the first round where Covington's flat footed and can't move around and Buckley's jumping around and landing body shots, you're like, oh man, why didn't I put lay everything on Buckley? So
There's a
all right,
parlay. Buckley, Billy Q parlay. The two old guys to end the night.
I love it. That's not bad. It's not bad. Double retirement? No, I'm not calling for double retirement. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. I will be live for Takedown Live. So you guys want to join us and do some live bets and everything. Last event of the year. Like Jim and I were talking about, it's like I know the break until January it feels like forever. This thing used to be 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah,
Now
it was
4. And I was talking to Corbin. Corbin was like, man, like when does golf start up again? When can we keep betting on Xander Schauffele? And I was like, first week of January, less than a month out, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're coming up on the 1st of January, which is right up our alley. So we're going to enjoy the holidays and such. But thanks guys for joining us again. Leave a comment, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that now. Good luck on your place, and we'll see everyone later.
Good luck, guys.